Hi all, welcome to educators.com. I'm Swapna Shetty, a corporate trainer with 6 years of experience. I'll be teaching you core Java. So let's begin the course. In this video, we are going to cover the basic history of Java and how Java has been used for software development for internet. So coming to the history of Java, it is initiated by James Gosling, Mike Sheridan and Patrick Norton in 1991. It all started at Sun Microsystems when they were trying to develop an application for set-top box. We have different versions of Java. The initial version was JDK 1.0, which was launched on 1996 January 21st, and then 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and so on. The latest version of Java is Java SE8, which was launched on March 18, 2014. And in 1990s, when they were trying to develop a portable application that can run on any microchip, they chose a language called C++, which was then available. But soon they found many features in C++ that were platform dependent. So they tried to remove those features that were platform dependent. In doing so, they ended up developing a new programming language, and they named this new programming language as Oak. In 1995, World Wide Web became popular and Internet came to be widely used even among homes. The World Wide Web presented the same problems and issues such as the set-top box software. Around the globe, there are different platforms under different operating systems, and there was a need for a portable platform independent programming language which can be used to write programs that can run on all these different platforms without the necessity of recompilation. Sun Microsystems renamed Oak to Java with some changes and launched it in the same year. So what is the need for Java? When there were so many programming languages already available, what was the need for another programming language? To understand this, let us take an example of a program that runs on a Sony TV remote control. This program can be written using a language, let us assume, called X. The remote control has an inbuilt chip on which this program will run. If we look at the functionality of a TV remote, it is almost the same for any brand of TV. That is, if it is Samsung or Onida or Sony, the functionality of a TV remote remains same. So, the same program should be used on any brand of TV remote. But in reality, it did not work because the inbuilt chip in different brand of TV remotes may be different. Therefore, the same program has to run these different chips. They have to recompile in order to suit different chips. That is, if there are 100 different brands, the same program has to be recompiled 100 times to suit these 100 different brands. This is the problem. That is the reason a new programming language was needed and Java was the answer. Now, how does Java solve this problem? The Java designers came out with a wonderful concept called Java Virtual Machine. A Java program, when compiled, produces a byte code rather than machine code. This byte code is machine independent. The JVM resides on the machine and interprets this byte code into a form a machine can understand. Now, take the same example of a TV remote. If the program was developed using Java rather than X, the same program can be used in all different brand of TV remotes provided all of them have JVM installed on them. If all of them have JVM, the JVM will convert the same program into a form that each brand of TV remote understands. This is a very simple but effective method of making a program portable. So this is how Java solved the problem. Next is software development for internet. So to understand this, let us take an example of a C program. So assume we have written an application called x.c of 10 lines. When we compile x.c, we would get x.obj file, that is object file, which is in machine language almost equal to the source code. So when we run this program, the compiler will go to tclib folder and searches for the header file, because the very first statement of any C program is #include stdio.h. So when we run the program, the compiler will go to the tclib folder and searches for the stdio.h file. Assume this header file consists of machine language code of 200 lines. So when we run the program, those 200 lines will be copied into our x.c program. Now x.c would become completely of 200 lines, and that file is nothing but our executable file. So when we run this file, the file is given to the processor and the processor will run the program and gives the output. But in the market, we have different processors. We have Pentium processor, we have Spark processor, we have Celeron, and so on. Every microprocessor can recognize a group of instructions called the instruction set of that microprocessor. The instructions recognized by Pentium processor may not be understandable by Spark, and the instructions recognized by Spark processor may not be understandable by Celeron, and so on. That is, if we generate x.exe file on a computer with Pentium processor, then that x.exe file contains machine language instructions understandable to Pentium only. If you try to execute this file on another computer with Spark processor, it may not be able to execute the instructions. So similarly, we have different operating systems, like we have DOS, Unix, Linux, and so on. So every operating system will store the data and instructions in different formats. For example, for adding two values, DOS instruction may be something like add a comma b, and for Unix it may be like a add b. The instructions formats are different for different operating system. So if we try to execute add a comma b instruction in Unix, it cannot understand since its format is different from what it is expecting. So that is the reason we cannot execute the same x.exe file in different operating system. So what does it mean is, if we create an x.exe file in C or C++ on X processor and Y operating system, then we can execute it on X processor and Y operating system only. If the processor is changed or the operating system is changed, it is not possible to execute the same code. That is the reason we say C or C++ languages are system dependent or platform dependent languages. Now let us come back to the internet. As we know, internet is a global network with all different processors and all different operating systems. If a software is developed using C, C++ like languages, that software can be distributed on the internet and people can download that .exe file, but they cannot run those files because of their system dependency. So C, C++ is not suitable for developing software for internet. So that is the reason we need a different language which is completely system independent, so that it can run on any system on internet, and that is Java. Now how Java solved the problem is, assume we have developed a Java program called x.java. When we compile this program, we would get x.class file. So what does x.class file contains is, it contains bytecode instructions. So what is bytecode? Java people coined a group of instructions to express any operation. These instructions are called bytecode instructions because the size of each instruction is 1 byte exactly. There are a fixed number of bytecode instructions, that is around 200. Any Java program can be rewritten using this few bytecode instructions. So here, for who takes this bytecode instructions is, it is for JVM. So Java Virtual Machine will interpret this bytecode and convert into a form that particular machine can understand. That is, JVM is nothing but it is a program written to understand the bytecode instructions and convert them into machine code. So it is first the JVM has to identify the operating system and the processor used in the computer system and then convert the bytecode instructions in an understandable format for that particular processor and operating system. So if we come back to the program, for example, let us say we have written this x.java program on a machine with Pentium processor and DOS operating system. Now when we compile the program, we would get bytecode instruction, and bytecode is given to the JVM. Now JVM will first identify that we have used Pentium processor and DOS operating system, so it converts that bytecode into a form that particular processor and operating system will understand, and then runs the program and gives the output. Now if you look at here, it is like bytecode is system independent. That is, it can be created on any computer using those predefined 200 instructions only. But JVM is system dependent. It has to interact with the processor and the operating system of the computer. This is the reason we have got several flavors of JVM. That is, if you are using Windows machine, we need to install Windows version of JVM. If you are using Linux machine, we need to install Linux version of JVM. So that is the reason we say JVM is system dependent. So we have discussed something about .exe file and the .class file. The difference between both of them is .exe is for microprocessor. That is, it contains machine language instructions for the microprocessor and it is system dependent. Whereas .class file contains bytecode instructions for the JVM and is system independent. So that's all with the session. Thank you.